My name is Aaron Briggs. I want to start by saying I am not someone who rattles easy. I spent 4 years working search and rescue up in Anchorage, Alaska, pulling people out of situations that would make most folks never leave their house again. I have seen avalanche survivors. I have pulled bodies out of frozen rivers. I have hiked through whiteout conditions at 2 in the morning with nothing but a headlamp and a radio. Fear was something I had trained myself to manage a long time ago. I say all of that so you understand exactly how serious it is when I tell you that what happened to me during the blizzard of March 2020 in Anchorage was the only time in my entire adult life that I had been completely and utterly paralyzed by terror. I was living in a small house on Birch Road out past the edge of the city, where the tree line gets thick and the nearest convenience store is a solid 20-minute drive. I liked being out there. After years of rescue work, the quiet felt earned. My closest neighbor was a man named Dale who lived about a quarter mile up the road, and we checked in on each other during bad storms out of habit more than anything else. Dale was 63 years old, retired, tough as nails, and not the type to panic about anything. I want you to remember Dale because he matters to this story. The storm that came in that March was brutal, even by Anchorage standards. We were looking at near zero visibility, hurricane-force wind gusts, and temperatures that dropped to -20 overnight. The kind of storm where you don't go outside for any reason unless your life depends on it. I had everything I needed inside, and I had no intention of stepping foot out that door until it passed. I went to bed around 11 that night feeling completely fine. The storm was loud, but I had slept through worse. I was out within minutes. Something woke me up at 2:30 in the morning, and the second I opened my eyes, I knew something was wrong. Not a feeling, a sound, coming from my front porch. It was a scratching, dragging kind of sound, slow and irregular, like something heavy being pulled across the wooden boards. I sat up in bed and listened. It stopped. Then it started again. Then it stopped. I grabbed the flashlight from my nightstand and the hunting knife I kept in the drawer below it. I am not ashamed to say my hands were not completely steady as I walked down the hallway toward the front of the house. I told myself it was an animal. A moose on the porch was not unheard of out there. I told myself that over and over as I approached the front door. I looked through the peephole. There was a man on my porch. He was on his hands and knees in the snow, facing away from the door, scratching at the porch boards with his bare fingers. No gloves. No hat. He was wearing a thin flannel shirt and jeans. Nothing else. In -20-degree weather, in the middle of a blizzard. His fingers were dragging across the wood over and over, in that same slow rhythm I had heard from my bedroom. He was not calling for help. He was not shaking from the cold. He was just scratching at my porch floor like he was looking for something buried underneath it. I did not open the door. I stood at that peephole and watched him for almost 2 full minutes, and in that entire time he never turned around, never spoke, never reacted to the storm raging around him. The snow was building up on his back and he was not shivering. A person in -20 without proper clothing should have been in the early stages of hypothermia within minutes. This man looked completely unbothered by the cold, and that detail alone made something deep in my gut tell me that whatever was on my porch was not right. I backed away from the door and tried calling Dale. The call connected on the 3rd try, and Dale picked up, sounding wide awake like he hadn't been sleeping at all. Before I could say a single word, he said, "There's someone on my porch too." I felt the blood drain out of my face completely. Dale's voice was low and tight, in a way I had never heard from him before. He said the person had been there for at least 20 minutes, just standing in his front yard facing the house and not moving. 2 separate locations. Same night. Same storm. Same thing. I told Dale to stay inside and keep his doors locked and not to open them for any reason. He agreed immediately, which told me everything I needed to know about how scared he actually was. I went back to the peephole. The man on my porch was now standing. He was upright with his back still to the door, and he was completely still, just standing there in the blizzard. And then slowly, so slowly it almost didn't look like movement at first, he began to turn around. I stepped back from the door before I could see his face. I don't know why. Some instinct just told me I did not want to see it. I pressed myself against the hallway wall, and I did not move, and I did not make a sound. I stayed like that for a long time. The scratching never came back. When I finally checked the peephole again, the porch was empty. Dale called me the next morning. His voice was different, quieter. He said his person had vanished the same way sometime around 3. We drove to each other's houses when the storm cleared and looked at the snow around both porches together. At my house, there were footprints leading up to the porch from the tree line and none leading back. At Dale's house, there were no footprints at all. None coming in and none going out. Dale has lived on that road for 19 years. He packed up and moved to Fairbanks the following month. I transferred out of Anchorage 6 weeks after that. Neither of us has talked about that night since. Some things you just agree to leave buried, even when you know they're still out there. My name is Nora Vasquez. I want to be upfront about something before I get into this. I am not the type of person who looks for attention. I am not online much. I do not exaggerate things for reaction, and I have never in my life told a story just to get a rise out of people. I am a 34-year-old nurse who works 12-hour shifts at St. Mary's Medical Center in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and I deal with real, hard, ugly things every single day. I am grounded in reality in a way that my job demands. I tell you all of that because what happened to me during the blizzard of January 2023 in Grand Forks is something that reality has never been able to fully account for, and it has changed the way I move through the world in ways I'm still trying to understand. I owned a small house on Cottonwood Street at the time, about 8 blocks from the hospital, close enough that I could walk to work in decent weather. It was a good house, solid bones, warm, nothing fancy, but nothing wrong with it either. I had lived there for 3 years without a single issue. Good street, decent neighbors, the kind of block where people shovel each other's driveways without being asked. It felt safe. It felt like the last place on earth where anything bad could reach me. The blizzard came in on a Thursday night. The forecast had been calling for heavy snow, but the system strengthened faster than anyone predicted, and by 9 in the evening we had whiteout conditions and the city had issued a travel ban. I was already home from my shift, and I had no plans to go anywhere. I made tea, turned the heat up, and called my sister in Fargo for about an hour while the storm built itself up outside my windows. We said goodnight around 10:30 and I went to bed. I was deep asleep when something pulled me out of it. Not a gradual waking up. A sudden violent jolt of consciousness, like my body had been shocked awake. I sat straight up in bed, and the first thing I noticed was that the bedroom felt wrong. The air felt different, heavier somehow. The kind of thick, uncomfortable feeling you get in a room when something has changed, and your body knows before your brain does. I looked at the clock on my nightstand. 3:18 in the morning. I looked toward the bedroom window and felt everything inside me drop. There was a hand pressed against the outside of the glass. A full adult hand, fingers spread wide, palm flat against the window, completely still. My bedroom was on the 2nd floor. There was nothing outside that window. No ledge, no balcony, no tree close enough to climb. Just a straight drop down to the side yard and 2 feet of snow on the ground below. And yet there was a hand on my 2nd floor window at 3 in the morning in the middle of a blizzard, and it was not moving at all. I could not scream. I genuinely tried and nothing came out. I sat in my bed completely frozen, staring at that hand, and my brain was just refusing to process what my eyes were showing it. The hand was pale, almost gray looking in the faint light from outside. The fingers were long, and the knuckles were pressed hard into the glass, like whatever was out there was gripping the window from the outside and holding itself up against the side of my house. I do not know how long I sat there staring at it. It could have been 30 seconds, or it could have been 5 minutes. Time stopped working properly the moment I saw it. What finally broke me out of the paralysis was watching one of the fingers move. Just one. The index finger lifted slowly off the glass and then pressed back down. Once. Deliberate. Like a tap. Like it knew I was awake and it wanted me to know that it knew. I screamed then. A real one this time. I threw myself out of bed and ran out of the bedroom and down the stairs. And I did not stop moving until I was in the kitchen with every light on and the biggest knife from the butcher block in my hand. I stood in that kitchen shaking so badly my teeth were chattering, and it had nothing to do with the cold. I called 911, and the dispatcher stayed on the line with me while a patrol unit was sent out. It took them almost 25 minutes to get to my street because of the travel ban and the road conditions, and those 25 minutes, standing alone in that kitchen, were the longest of my entire life. When the officers arrived, I took them upstairs and showed them the window. There were marks on the outside of the glass. Smear marks exactly where I had seen the hand, the kind of smear marks a hand pressed flat against glass leaves behind. One of the officers actually went outside with a flashlight and looked up at the window from the yard below. He came back inside and told me the snow beneath the window was completely undisturbed. No footprints, no ladder marks, no sign that anything or anyone had been standing below that window or anywhere near the side of the house. He had no explanation for the marks on the glass. He wrote everything down in his report, told me to call if anything else happened, and left. I called my coworker Janet, who lived 4 blocks away, and asked if I could stay with her for the rest of the night. She said yes, without asking a single question, because she heard my voice, and she knew. I grabbed my keys and my coat, and I walked out of that house at 4 in the morning in a blizzard. And I did not look up at my bedroom window as I left, because I was terrified of what I might still see pressed against it. I had the window professionally inspected the following week. The technician told me the marks on the glass were consistent with a handprint, but had no explanation for how they got there given the height and the lack of any access point below. He seemed almost excited about it, like it was an interesting puzzle. It was not a puzzle to me. It was the single most frightening moment of my entire life. I sold the house on Cottonwood Street 4 months later. I still work at St. Mary's. I still live in Grand Forks. But I bought a house with no second floor, and every single window in it has a lock that I check 3 times before I go to sleep, every night without exception. My name is Joel Mercer. I'll keep this short because honestly, the shorter I keep it, the less I have to sit with it. I live in Casper, Wyoming, and I have lived here my whole life. Casper is the kind of city where the wind never really stops. Even on calm days, there's always something moving through it, some low whistle cutting between the buildings downtown or rattling the fence posts out in the open fields east of the city. You get used to it. You stop hearing it after a while. But the night of February 14th, 2023, I heard something in that wind that I have not been able to unhear since. I was staying in my uncle's place out on the east side of Casper, while my own apartment was getting some plumbing work done. My Uncle Ray was out of town visiting family in Denver, so I had the whole house to myself. It was a single-story ranch-style house, sitting on about 2 acres of flat open land, with nothing but fields and fence lines in every direction. No trees close enough to touch the house. No neighboring properties within a good half-mile. Just flat Wyoming earth and open sky, and the wind that never stops. The blizzard hit that evening without much warning. The forecast had called for light snow, but what came in off the mountains was something meaner and faster than anyone predicted. By 10 at night, the wind was screaming, and the snow was horizontal, and visibility outside the windows was absolute zero. I had had nowhere to go, and no reason to go anywhere. I ate leftover pizza, watched TV, and went to bed in the guest room around 11, feeling completely relaxed. I woke up at 2 in the morning, and the house was silent. That was the first thing that was wrong. Not the silence itself, but the quality of it. The wind had been howling for hours, and now it had stopped completely, and the absence of it was so sudden and so total that it felt unnatural. Like the storm hadn't calmed down but had been turned off. Like something had reached up and switched it off deliberately. I lay in the dark and listened to that silence and felt deeply uneasy in a way I could not explain. Then I heard the knock. One single knock on the front door. Loud and hard and deliberate. The kind of knock that comes from a fist and not from wind or debris. I sat up slowly and looked at the time. 2:04 in the morning. In a blizzard. At a house sitting alone on 2 acres outside Casper with no neighbors within half a mile. Nobody knocks on a door like that at 2 in the morning in the middle of a blizzard unless something is very wrong. I told myself it was an emergency. A stranded driver, someone who had gone off the road in the storm, someone desperate and scared and needing help. I got up, pulled on my jeans, and walked down the hallway to the front of the house. I looked through the peephole. The porch light was on, and the snow was still falling, but the wind had stayed dead and silent. And standing on the porch was a little girl. She looked maybe 8 or 9 years old. She was wearing a yellow dress. No coat, no boots, no hat, just a thin yellow dress and bare feet on the snow-covered porch boards. She was standing completely straight with her arms at her sides and her head tilted down so I could not see her face. Just the top of her head and that yellow dress and those bare feet in the snow. I did not open the door. Something about the way she was standing made every single alarm in my body go off at once. Kids who are lost and scared and freezing do not stand that still. They cry, they shiver, they pound on the door, they look up. This girl was not doing any of those things. She was just standing there perfectly still, like she had been placed there. Like a thing that was meant to look like a child but had gotten some of the details slightly wrong. I backed away from the door and grabbed my phone and called 911. The dispatcher sent a unit out immediately. I told them there was a child on the porch, and I could hear the urgency in the dispatcher's voice shift when I described what the girl was wearing. The officers arrived 12 minutes later. They knocked, and I let them in through the back door, and we went to the front together. The porch was empty. No little girl. No yellow dress. The officers looked at me and then looked at the porch, and then looked at each other. There were no footprints in the snow on that porch. Not a single one. One of the officers went very quiet after that. On his way out, he stopped at the door and turned back to me and said, "Don't open the door next time. Just don't open it." And then he left, and I stood in that house alone for the rest of the night, with every light on and my back against the wall, and I did not sleep again until the sun came up, and even then I did not feel safe. I have never told my Uncle Ray what happened in his house that night. I don't think I ever will.